Hello!
Hello! Welcome to episode 2 of Lay It Out podcast. How are you, Alice?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really, really excited about all the people that listened to episode 1. Thank you. If any of you have come back, it was really cool. Like, we've literally spent all the past week refreshing Podbean, like, constantly at work, trying to see our download stats.
Hello to our Australian listener.
And the ones in the US.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting.
All the way over there.
Yeah. Oh, and someone in Birmingham and Leicester, actually.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out who all these people are, and, like, because obviously they must be people we know, because who are all these strangers that are somehow tuning into our podcast, which is crazy.
I'm trying to figure out who I might know in Australia.
I know a few people that are travelling around, but not enough people that maybe like me enough to actually listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in touch.
Yeah.
Say hi.
So, exciting news. Anyone got any exciting news this week?
Exciting news. Not really. Curry, you have some exciting news.
I do have exciting news. I booked in my first participant for my clinical trial that's going to be running this year. Shameless plug. If anyone knows someone that's over 60 and slightly overweight, please email me at change@kcl.ac.uk. And more exciting news from the podcast team.
Indeed.
Jamalza got her 23andMe results back after like 2 months of waiting.
And she doesn't want to speak about it herself, but she's given us permission to discuss. Her favourite discovery from 23andMe is that, correct me if I get this wrong, her index finger is in fact longer than her ring finger.
And who knew that was genetic?
Genetic. Madness.
Madness, absolutely crazy.
But yours is different. Yours is the opposite way around.
My ring finger's longer than my index finger.
And my index is longer than my ring. So yeah, look, no. You can't see, but it's true.
Alice did just show me her fingers.
I did. And Kerry showed me hers.
Yeah. So we were all at a talk after work today. So Alice came over to our campus.
I came over.
And we had this talk from our supervisor, Sandrine Thurett, who has... Maybe people have seen her TED Talk. It's done a few rounds on the internet. One might say it's gone a bit viral. And she basically gave us a talk about public engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And there was quite an interesting discussion at the end with one postdoc basically confirming to me every single fucking reason why I'm doing this podcast in the first place.
And go.
Right, where do I even bloody start? So basically there was this big debate going on at the end. I say big, it maybe lasted like 5 minutes, but, you know, for what was meant to be a casual event of, you know, young scientists, it was quite awkward.
Yeah.
It was mainly sort of 2 points that he raised that I really wanted to rebuttal, but at the same time I knew I'd get kind of annoyed about it, so I just kept my mouth shut.
She kept it for the podcast.
I did, that too.
She's like, I'm going to rant.
One of his big things was him saying that maybe scientists and science communication should be separate jobs, which I'm sorry, is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Is that not why we're getting all these wrong stories in the media in the first place?
Yeah.
How are we supposed to possibly talk about science to the public if the people that actually know about it aren't talking about it?
Exactly. That's how things get taken out of context.
Surely it's the responsibility of the scientists who are in these big, powerful positions and they're super knowledgeable to be doing the science communication in the first place.
Exactly.
And that kind of annoyed me. And the way he said it also kind of made it sound like he was attacking my supervisor, which I got defensive. And his other argument that he said was sort of being like, you know, it seems like things like TED Talks or whatever, it's oversimplifying the science. Mm-hmm. And then in this way it becomes misleading and meaningless. How the fuck are people that don't do science meant to understand the science if it's not simplified?
Exactly.
Right? And I'm like, it just that
I really liked what your supervisor came back with though for that.
Mm-hmm.
When they were both saying Einstein and they both had French accents and I couldn't understand that they were saying Einstein, but I got it afterwards. They were like Einstein. Did you not think that?
But I think that's how you're meant to pronounce it in
really?
like German or whatever, Austrian or wherever he's from.
Okay. Okay, cool. So Einstein said, make it as simple as possible, but no more than that.
Yeah. Which
I think is a great way of explaining it, because it's like, you know, don't make it so simple you sacrifice the truth.
Yeah, and I don't know, that kind of really pissed me off, because to me, I'm like, you're missing the whole fucking point.
Yeah.
Like, fine, one of his arguments for that was that, you know, if things are oversimplified and then these media outlets take it, then it becomes misleading and meaningless and blah, 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 blah. Fine, I understand that. That's actually something we have addressed in episode 0, where we said we don't like how misleading newspapers are.
No.
But we kind of need things like that, in my opinion,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
That it's better to have these people see that headline, they can understand it straight away, and then maybe half those people will buy into that bullshit, but half the people will be interested and want to find out more. And at that point, we then need the scientists to step in and be like, oh yeah, this is what this means, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
If we don't simplify it in the first place, no one's going to understand and no one's going to care.
No. And I also think that's not a very, like, inclusive attitude. Because
Not
what he was
at all.
kind of saying is to keep science for scientists.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't know. In my opinion, as a scientist, if you're doing research, one of your main priorities should be that your research is for the benefit of the people, right?
Indeed.
And if they can't access it and they can't, they have every right to know everything they need to know about what we're doing. And if it's not oversimplified, no one will care.
No.
And that just really pissed me off. And it's kind of like, you know, in this generation or this world right now, where things like Vine, 6-second videos became so popular because people's attention span just doesn't reach something that's like a 15-minute YouTube video.
No.
People want those 6 seconds quick headlines.
Exactly.
And that's what I think science community... I agree there should be a much better job of being done. And I think there's a big push for it now. And like something like this podcast is what we wanted to do in the first place. I feel better now.
Rant over?
Yes, rant over.
Sure?
I think so.
Any, like, you know, little post-rant?
I just think scientists should... I just think his thoughts were really perpetuating the stereotype of scientists.
Yeah. As being very insular and not wanting to interact with anybody other than their own little bubble.
Exactly.
Which is not what we're about.
We're
particularly
not.
us.
Exactly. And yeah, it just... That kind of annoyed me a little bit, and I didn't want to get into it in front of my supervisor. I don't want to be arguing with this postdoc who's far more advanced than me in his career in front of my boss. So maybe if she listens to this, she'll get my opinion on it.
Because we're just the lowly PhD students.
Exactly.
We're at the bottom of the pile right now.
But that's fine.
Working our way up.
Yeah. Started at the bottom, now we're here.
Could we input the music to that there? Because I don't like your singing.
Copyright. Oh, so rude.
You know, I'm just being honest.
Anyway, shall we introduce our guest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Except me and Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, apart from that. But
You guys can get into that.
Yeah, me and Jamie met when we were 18. We met at the classic Black Sheep bar in Croydon, which is now closed. Yeah. But that was kind of the go-to night out place for a really long time in Croydon. To the point where people would travel from outside of Croydon into Croydon just to go to Black Sheep bar.
No
and
way.
they'd have...
apparently.
Oh shit.
They'd have these cheap sheep things where it was certain... Either all Tuesday night or like a happy hour thing where they'd have pints for £2.50. Oh, so we would all we'd all gather like 5 or 6 snake bites in one go, and just drink those through the night.
And in a place where it's like UV lighting and you've got purple drinks, it's not easy to see. You do go everywhere quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best.
And they're purple, so do they glow when they go on you?
No.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's only if you're
really cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of just be threatened to like, or not threatened, tempted to just like throw your snake bite everywhere at everyone.
Yeah,
that could be fun.
On my 18th birthday, I went there and I lost my license, my driver's license. First night out.
Oh.
In the chicken shop opposite.
Oh.
Well, it was great before then. It was just
Chicken
afterwards.
shop.
It was a bit upsetting.
Yeah.
I got over it very quickly. So
Could you get a new one?
my mother had to pay £50, but I didn't.
And
so.
you have passports anyway. So yeah, tell us, Jamie. What do you do?
I am officially it's, but I'm like an IT consultant. Yeah, exactly. Literally,
I don't think we're in the position to be making snore noises right now.
I think your one sounds more interesting than mine.
Oh really? Oh cool.
Yeah, but like my actual job is like building underwriting models for insurance companies.
Okay, cool.
In like on our own program that we have.
So actually, you might be schooling us on our stats.
Only on maths and stuff.
Oh shit.
Barely,
Okay.
Yeah.
barely, very barely.
Yeah.
If anyone who listened to the last podcast, I did proclaim to not be an expert on stats, so I'm just covering myself here and saying this when I make mistakes later on.
Numbers are my favourite.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
He might be nerdier than us.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, like, you guys are quite specified in your nerdness in your job as well, whereas mine just like I just sit around talking most of the time about random stuff.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
getting wasted every night.
Yeah, pretty much. I had 2 pints before I came here, so
Is that part of the job description?
It wasn't, but I'm really glad it is part of it now
Nice.
because it's my favourite bit.
What's your relationship with science been? I mean, obviously you did math science at uni, so you technically...
I did mathematical sciences at uni.
Would you classify yourself as a scientist?
No.
Also, mathematical, same shit.
No, it's not.
Tell us the difference.
Right.
I think I'm about to be schooled.
No, you're not. I don't know, but I just said the official name of my course was mathematical sciences.
Okay.
And actually, I wanted to do astrophysics at university, but I didn't get good enough grades. So
I was going to say, were you not smart enough?
I was not smart enough. Actually, I think it's more that I wasn't smart. It wasn't that I was not smart enough. It was that I was too lazy.
That's fair. I think that's...
Yeah.
But do you know what? Annoyingly, I think that's actually a lot of very smart people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think during GCSEs I did like zero revision and like, just got by.
Am I
then when it
being
came to, like,
sexist if I
A-levels-
say particularly guys? Because I know that's my brother's problem.
Probably not.
I just
True.
know, like, one of my brothers is really intelligent and he just doesesn't make any effort whatsoever.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for the people who try really hard
And don't
just
do well.
aren't smart.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh,
Heartbreaking.
unfortunate.
Wait, so hang on. What is mathematical science?
Oh, yeah, we never got there.
Oh, do you know what? I can't tell you the answer to that question. All I know is it was quite generic.
Is
in
that
what
I
it
imagine
was.
it to be like proofs and aviation
No,
and...
it's so it was like a DOS.
Not saying that
subject
proofs and
pretty much.
aviation are the same thing. I don't know. There's going to be proofs
No,
and there's
so
going to be plain stuff.
My one was like more, I think you probably called it more like applied mathematics and stuff like that. So I did a lot of stats. I did a bit of calculus and stuff like to get over like the hard bits. And then it was like financial maths. And I even did like business simulations. So like simulating like resources and that sort of stuff. So how do you use it in a business term?
That's cool.
So yeah, so it's more, I would say it's more applied.
So would you consider yourself a scientist?
I wouldn't because my course was more applied maths. I think the name is like, doesn't really show what it really was about.
Yeah.
It's more like how you apply it in real life. So I did like financial maths, lots of stats. I did business simulation and I also did like project management and then a bunch of other stuff as well.
So
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you for that overview.
Yeah.
if we take it back to sort of what we do then, what was your relationship with like biology or human science? Or...
Biology and human science, nothing.
Nice.
It was like, I got through those bits at GCSE and then I did like physics and chemistry at A-level.
Oh, okay. So nothing like what we do at all.
Not like that sort of stuff, no.
Yeah.
No. So
You did
it's
all the hard
new to me. I
sciences.
did hardly did mathematical science.
Yeah.
Come back to that again.
Well, I mean, chemistry, like, for in nutrition, we need to do kind of, it's
Yeah.
a bit of biochemistry background, but not the more physicsy side of chemistry,
Yeah,
which
see-
is probably where you're headed.
Yeah, that's my thing. So like
Yeah.
I did chemistry at A-level, but then I got an E. So I was just like, well, I'll just drop that one. Carried on with physics. And then I wanted to do that, obviously, as I said before, but yeah, that's a shame.
Oh.
Yeah.
And if you did astrophysics, would you have been like an astronaut?
No. I'd probably have been like, as like a top job of that, just like being like I don't know what to call it because I didn't really look into it that much, but just like an astronomic researcher.
Oh,
I'm going to call it that
cool.
because that's my own way of doing it. But
That sounds super cool.
it probably sounds cooler than it is. It's just
No, I
there's
think
lots of
it's
numbers
cool.
and stuff.
I feel like you'd be
Yeah.
like on like Interstellar or something like
Yeah,
that.
but space is like the sickest shit alive.
Yeah,
So,
it's cool.
it's
Space
my
is the
favourite.
only reason I wish I kind of understood physics a bit more, because isn't all space is to do with physics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about rules and.
Yeah. I like all those
Stuff.
space movies, I just don't really understand them.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of space movies, you know.
Oh, The
it's
Martian.
So cool, man.
I really like The Martian, but I think The Martian's a bit more interesting than the other space movies. Sorry to everyone who loves Interstellar.
I heard though that The
Okay.
Martian was one of the ones they talked to like the head honchos in
And
physics.
it's really accurate.
And they said you
Yeah.
could do The Martian, but you couldn't do Interstellar because they're like falling through space and time in that one, and apparently
Yeah,
that's not.
But you know
Possible.
that the actual like the production of that film like forwarded on like visual aspects of what things in space would look like a wormhole. Like they actually didn't know what a wormhole would really look like in real life until they actually thought about we need to do this in this film. Let's actually see what it looks like, and then that's how they came up with what it was like. And then I think it's something about like it's like the best like most realistic version of a black hole they ever created as well was for that film as well.
Oh, wow.
And stuff. I think all the time dilation and all stuff like that is like really cool.
And
I
Matt
love
Damon's
that
great
sort
too.
of He's also
He was good.
he was the best bit of the whole film. Oh, no, the best bit of the whole film was the tidal wave on like the second planet or the first planet that I landed on.
Oh, yeah. Have you read the book?
No.
It's really
I don't
good.
know.
Oh.
Okay.
You're too busy doing stats.
Yeah.
Too busy, just reading about. There was one night actually where I spent about, I was about 18. I spent about 4 hours from like the hours of like 12 until 4, just like going through Wikipedia about things about space, just like next link and next link, like just keep going. I just didn't stop.
You fell down a wormhole.
Oh, whoa!
I see what you did there.
God, I'm hilarious.
Anyway, Jamie, thank you for coming on the podcast. The format of our show is that we're now each gonna talk to you about a scientific paper.
Okay, cool. So, first of all, in case this is anyone's first listen, which I hope it is not, I hope you're listening to them all chronologically. I'm a nutritionist. So my focus is microbiome research. So, in particular, the gut microbiome. So that is the colony of bacteria, viruses, all of the microorganisms that live in your gastrointestinal tract. I'm specifically interested in those in the large intestine because that's where majority of them are. So that's your large intestine.
I say that's your like very specific field of like what you work in.
Yes,
like,
that's what I research.
Just not like it's like lower body, but just like specifically the large intestine.
Yeah, no, specifically the bacteria in the large intestine.
Sorry, even more specific than I thought it was going to be in the first
that's
place.
science though. So, and they're super important. So they're also referred to as the microbiota, just in case I use that term. I described them last week as the soldiers. You know, think of them as an army in your gut. So they're really important. You know, you want to look after them. You want to give them rest. You want to feed them. You don't want to flood them out of your system with colonic irrigation. That's bad. And basically, research at the moment, this area is really exciting and expanding because it's coming to light that a whole host of different things can happen to your microbiota which have widespread effects to health, not just in your intestine, but like as far as really involved in your immune system, also communicate with your brain. So it's thought that alterations in your gut bacteria can have an effect on your mental health, which sounds bizarre, but you know, that's as far as it's going. So hopefully we'll get to that someday. Today we are talking about a thing called fecal microbiota transplantation.
Fecal microbiota transplantation.
Yes. So I'm going to give you a brief summary of the paper.
Blimey.
And then we can start getting into some questions if you would like. So
I would love to.
Yeah. So I'll read out the full title of the paper first. So it's fecal microbiota transplantation versus placebo for moderate to severe irritable bowel syndrome.
I can't write that fast.
Jamie is our first very vigilant guest who is taking his own notes. Go, Jamie. So
I've got fecal microbiota transplantation. I think that's enough.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, you can stick it there. Okay, so I'll just complete the title. So, fecal microbiota transplantation versus placebo for moderate to severe irritable bowel syndrome, a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled, parallel group, single-center trial.
Good old scientists and their long-winded titles.
Indeed.
Oh, my Lord.
So they're ticking all the boxes here because there's kind of like a general format for titles of paper that you want to specify your intervention, your placebo, your population of interest, and your study design. So they've got that all in here, but it doesn't make for the easiest of reading. But I mean, they're sticking to the format.
Can we go through the title like bit by bit so I can understand exactly what's going on? Because it all kind of went like, and it's like well past me.
Indeed. Okay. So maybe this actually might be a fun thing. So, what do you think fecal microbiota transplantation might be?
I assume that's when your poo starts forming in your large intestine / small intestine. It's like holding on, the bacteria is like gripping onto the side.
Okay.
As it's like flowing out. It's forming. So it's holding on to go down, and it travels down, and then microbiota from your large intestine gets transferred via poop to your lower intestine and to all the other parts of your body along the way, and also comes out sometimes. so that you can actually like do tests.
I think you've just described having a poo.
in some very strange anatomy. Also, can I just say? Your large intestine connects to your lower intestine. Is that right?
Yeah. The point of my explanation was that the bacteria from your large intestine, the microbiota, gets transferred to other parts of your body. Parts of your body?
Indeed.
As it goes down. So, like, bits get transferred to your lower intestine or to your rectum or whatever parts are on the way. Your colon.
Okay, cool.
Is that one?
So you've just basically used many words to describe the same thing.
Oh, is that the
But
same thing?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So your large intestine. Actually, no, sorry. I'm not going to be that mean. You were correct about some things. Your large intestine connects to your rectum, which is like the exit point of your
Oh
body.
wait, it's small intestine, then large intestine.
Yeah, the large intestine and the colon are the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it went large and then small and then out.
No, it goes small first, then large. So that's why I haven't mentioned small.
Alright, well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's quite crucial. So yeah, small is above the large. So it goes from smaller to larger. So small is where all your absorption happens. So when you eat, like all your nutrients get pulled out of your small intestine and like go around your body and do the other purposes.
Okay.
And then all your waste gets brought to the large intestine.
Where it's all chunked
And that's where your poo forms.
Did you say it's all chunder?
No, chunked up.
Oh.
Chunked.
No, that would be back up in the stomach. Specifically.
That's the wrong direction, Curie.
But yeah, it would be all kind of like, brought together and and then it goes down into the large intestine and that's where all your microbiota are. So they work on anything that's left. So all that waste that we have no use for in our bodies, the microbiota, the bacteria, can use. So they use that to live. So that's why it's their food.
Okay.
They eat poo, basically.
Wicked.
But not just poo, they eat the things in poo. So specifically fibres, mainly, because we don't digest fibre. Because basically what happens is most of your food gets digested in your small intestine, and all your nutrients get absorbed into the bloodstream. Then the waste, including fibre, they make it with all the other waste materials to the large intestine, and the bacteria have a party. So your little army are like,
a feast.
it's like all their Christmases have come at once. They're like, yeah, fibre! And they use the fibre. So we would call it eating. They call it fermenting. So the bacteria ferment the fibres and their waste products. So the bacteria then poo. I'm doing air quotes because I don't actually know if they poo. But they emit the waste products of their fermentation. They're called short chain fatty acids. And the short chain fatty acids can be like really beneficial to us.
To us?
Yeah.
Okay, so is this part of the reason why we eat fibre? Is to help these microbiota?
Yeah.
It's not actually for our own benefit, it's for their benefit.
So
is that how it works?
It's kind of both. So what's for their benefit is most of the time also for our benefit. But also then fibre, by drawing it, so fibre causes water to come into your large intestine as well. And that improves the movement of the poo through your system. So it's both. You're dead right. It's both.
I never actually knew that was why fibre was recommended.
That's why
It's kind
drinking
of like
water is really important.
It's like a natural. Isn't that what laxative pills do? So it's like a natural laxative, kind of bringing water in.
But it's probably the right amount, right?
Well, yeah.
It's like bringing so much water, it's just still like pouring out.
Yeah.
And there's also there's like 4 different types of laxatives. One of them is bulk forming, so they would be fibre. They're the ones that would bring water in. But there's also like chemical laxatives that do different things.
I see.
Yeah, there's a few different ones, and like rehydration. I studied them at one point many years ago, but yeah. So yeah. That's why water, it's so important to drink so much water, because even if you have a high fibre diet but you're not consuming enough water,
I see.
You're not getting the benefits, really.
This is like, so one of my friends who has quite a strong nutrition background as well, she is trying this new thing where she's trying to have whole grains at every meal. So she was like, you should try and up your whole grain intake too. But every time she's like, but make sure you have loads of water. Yeah. Like, you have to have loads of water if you're going to do this.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
Drink your water, kids.
So if you ever eat bran flakes, have it with water rather than milk.
I see where you're coming from.
But gross.
That would taste disgusting.
Well, I know someone's dad who eats cornflakes with water rather than with milk.
I know a girl who used to have a big bowl of bran flakes once a month to clear herself out.
That's weird.
Once a month?
Not that she doesn't go for the whole month, but as in she'd have one big clear out session once a month.
That would be...
I don't get how that would clear out. Like, surely you want to be clear like kind of the whole time rather than just like a 1 month detox.
I don't know.
Like, reset and then build up for a month.
So back to the original question of what was fecal microbiota transplantation. You gave a good guess. Well done. But fecal microbiota transplantation is something quite different than poo moving through your small and large intestines and then evacuating out of your body. Actually, fecal microbiota transplantation is this new kind of therapy that is being considered. And what it is you're taking poo, feces being the technical term, which will be used in this paper, from a healthy individual.
No way.
And transplanting them to a person who has fucked up microbiota.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're shoving, literally in a literal way, you are shoving poo up someone else from one person
So
to
you're-
another.
You're taking healthy poo and putting it in an unhealthy person.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Can I have it?
Do you mind me asking you some personal questions about your health right now? So you can have it if you have either, well, I think C. difficile infection. I think...
Makes it be difficult to poo.
Oh, stop. I think C. difficile is like one of those hospital bugs that a lot of people are getting, and it made people more predisposed to IBS and other things, but I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, this has actually been shown to be more efficacious than drugs to treat C. difficile infection.
What does efficacious mean?
So it means it works better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Efficacious.
You know what? Like,
fuck.
this is one of those things.
It's really
there's-
hard.
When you're, because you get in the habit of writing for scientists.
Yeah, you do.
There's certain words that you use that you would never use in real life.
No.
I realised one of my biggest used words is elucidated.
What does that mean?
Means like to find out or like
Yeah.
discovered.
Do you know what I use quite often? Extrapolated.
Oh yeah,
Like to take something and
yeah.
extrapolate it.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoy that
Like
word.
attenuated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, there's more words.
I love that you're taking notes.
Attenuated is what I'm going to use them later on.
Oh yeah, cool.
What's attenuated?
Like improve.
I always get confused between attenuated and there's another word beginning with A and it's kind of the opposite. No, I'll think of it later.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, it's being widely used for the treatment of an infection known as C. difficile.
C.
So
difficile.
that's when basically, yeah, so your microbiota are your little soldiers in your body.
Yep.
And the odd time they will get invaded. So bacteria in general get kind of a bad reputation because everyone thinks bacteria and they're like, oh, bad. Like,
Mhm.
bacteria, bad. You don't want bacteria. Actually, you have bacteria, as I said, in your intestine, but also, like, you know, that's your gut microbiome. You have your skin microbiome, so you have the tiny little microorganisms all over your skin. You have microbiome in your mouth. Women have a microbiome in their vagina. That's extremely important. You know, there's just all the different microbiomes,
They're just everywhere.
and they're just really important.
Well,
So, go on.
You know how like Yakult is marketed as the good bacteria.
Uh-huh.
Do you think if you like put it in your vag, then it'll help you with yeast infections like yogurt?
Oh.
I wouldn't try it. Okay.
You swirl it around, like shake it
And
out.
and just
with
do
it.
some. You could do a hula hoop. You
Yeah.
like shot it up yourself. And
But yeah, no, you have to do it a hula hoop on a shoulder stand.
Or
Oh, yeah, you
you
would,
could,
yeah,
you
'cause
could
you
lodge
need
it
to
in
keep
and then
it
do
in.
like a twerk.
that could-
Get 'em out.
yeah.
It would catch you afterwards anyway. so
Like a
put it back
Yakult
out.
shake.
Yeah.
The odd time, so your bacteria in your gut and your large intestine, they're all good. You know, they're keeping you safe. They're looking after your mental health, looking after your immune system, looking after your gut itself. Just doing great things. The odd time, they'll get invaded
Okay.
by bad bacteria. So they're known as pathogenic bacteria because they cause disease.
Chins.
So like pathogen.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bad term.
I've heard that one word before.
Mm-hmm. Great. They'll get invaded. So C. difficile is one of these bad bacteria that can invade. And just a really bad infection, been, I think, quite publicised for causing a lot of havoc in some hospitals and things like that. And it's
Okay.
also, I think, associated with further predispositions to other not nice health consequences.
To do with your lower intestine.
Yes.
Okay.
And so anyway, fecal microbiota transplantation has been shown to be to work very well in curing this. So they were giving fecal microbiota transplantation
Yep.
to people with IBS
Okay.
to try and improve their symptoms.
Right.
Okay? So
Yep.
IBS, like C. difficile infection, is characterized by some other bacteria coming in and causing a bit of havoc
Yes.
with your good bacteria.
Okay.
So what sometimes happens is you'll get bacteria from outside coming in and growing and taking over, but also you have really small amounts of bacteria that if they overgrow, if they stay in their numbers and are like contained, they're fine, they'll just perform a few little functions, they'll all live peacefully together. But if we go back to the army metaphor, this could be considered like a couple of bad bacteria getting too big for their boots, deciding to cause a bit of a mutiny and like spreading. So they can be bacteria that are normally within your gut and they just kind of take over. This is called dysbiosis. So it's like an imbalance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So this is something that happens in IBS. And the whole concept of this paper is they thought that maybe if they gave feces, which also I should mention, the feces would have the good bacteria from the healthy person.
So it's healthy poo given
Yes.
someone with very bad
Yeah.
poo.
So it's healthy poo with healthy bacteria given to a person with IBS who has dysbiosis in their bacteria. So a bit of a mutiny.
I have the craziest image in my head right now of like some proper like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings shit, where there's all these bad bacteria that have taken over and they're holding the good bacteria hostage, and then all these good bacteria are like charging in and defeating all these bad bacteria.
Do you know what I imagine is like a poo flowing on like a water, and then it's like a battle on like a ship, but they're all sort of poo like, fighting each other. That's the thing.
Poo is the vessel.
Yeah. The poo is like the ship, and
Yeah.
they're all fighting on it. Or it's just like two little bad boys who are also on the poo. They're like, we're gonna have a mutiny. That's
Yeah.
also the kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
then
like the ships are definitely the poos are definitely ships. Sorry,
okay.
in my whole metaphor of what's going on right
Yeah.
now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes
okay.
sense. I'm glad it does.
Okay, well, I mean, in terms of size scale, if I was to be really, I was about to say, if I was to be really anal. Anyway, you'd be able to fit like billions of bacteria on one ship. But, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we'll go with that.
Sorry, carry on.
Bacteria all having a big battle in your intestine. So that's what's going on basically. That's similar, that's kind of what's thought to be going on in IBS. Is that everything's kind of a bit chaotic. There's bad bacteria, there's some good bacteria trying to win back the territory. But by introducing some, what would you call it? By bringing in reinforcements
Yeah.
from a healthy person.
This is the bit where the Ents come in
Rings.
Return of the King. The Ents come in and like fuck everyone up.
Yeah, but,
They
so
come charging in.
in my terms, it's like a new ship has come along with all good guys on it.
Yeah, all the good guys. So they've come in to try and save the day.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what they did. They got people, recruited people with IBS. So as I said, this is a placebo-controlled trial. So you had your intervention and you also had a placebo. So the placebo was actually the person's own poo.
Right, okay. I have another question now.
Go
which
on.
is about how do you get the poo from one person into the other person? Because I have this image of like injecting poo into someone, which I feel like is wrong.
With some massive syringe.
Yeah, no. So like in your stomach, like, you get like when you go
Oh.
like in there, not in your bum.
Okay, so you were right about the massive syringe.
Oh, she said massive syringe.
Yeah, that's how you do it, yeah. But in your bum.
Oh, so up your bum.
So you're quite literally just reversing
The
the
process.
process.
Yeah.
But how much? But surely, like, if you just did that, it would just, group up in your rectal area rather than in your large intestine.
So they make efforts to put it as far up as possible.
So it would be kind of like when you're getting
Sorry.
what's it called? You know the
An enema.
No, not the enema. The
Colonoscopy?
yeah, a colonoscopy.
Is that just shove caffeine up your bum?
What?
What?
No, it's when they put a camera up your bum to check you're all
To have
healthy.
a look at your own
Sorry.
intestines.
And then I'm thinking of colonic irrigation.
Yeah, we discussed
Yeah, we've
that.
already
Yeah.
discussed that in
We
the last
discussed that,
episode.
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, I missed this vital
You
part.
weren't here, Jim.
I wasn't. And I'm upset that I missed that part.
So yeah, they use a syringe and they try to get it up as far as possible. They also gave them a drug called loperamide, which is
Loperamide.
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 Yeah, loperamide, which is they give it to people who have diarrhea, so basically stops you from moving. So the idea was that they gave them
From
loperamide,
moving.
your bowels from moving.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Sorry, no, yeah. I'm assuming they were given some sort of anesthetic, although I actually don't know.
Loperamide hurt.
No, I think it was just orally, like a tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, so they give it to you, so then the idea behind that is to try and keep the feces inside you for as long
So
as
it
possible.
constipates
Oh, I
you.
see.
Kind of, yeah. It doesn't constipate you because they also gave them an enema before they did this, so they should have been entirely empty
Okay.
when they were getting this. And then they were given the feces, and then, enema first, clear them out, then loperamide to slow everything down, and then they put the feces in them to try and keep it in there for as long as possible.
I see.
Okay.
So then they followed them up for a year and they gave them a questionnaire. So this was the primary outcome. So this questionnaire is called the IBS SSS, and it is a symptom severity scale that they completed at baseline, so before they got the fecal microbiota transplantation.
Yep.
So that would have measured their baseline symptoms. And these people had moderate to severe IBS, so it would have been quite bad.
Are these physiological measurements like physiological symptoms, or are they self-reported?
Self-reported, yeah.
Oh,
So it's a
sorry, yeah.
validated,
Yeah.
I think it's validated.
How many absolutely horrific diarrhea poos did you do this week? 5. It's like a thing.
Exactly, yeah. Similar, yeah, kind of scale. So ask you questions also about your other symptoms. So in terms of stool output, but then also like bloating, pain. Because IBS is characterized by bloating and quite bad abdominal pain, and it's also like really prevalent. It's like 11.2% prevalence globally, so that's like 11.2% of the population.
And that's the same thing you get like if you're like lactose intolerant. That's like an IBS like in that.
Lactose intolerance would be something different, but sometimes
The
intolerance would be a trigger for IBS.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would they have measured mood in this? Because isn't there quite a high rate of depression among people that have IBS?
They collected information on confounders, so things like, I think, mood, anxiety, depression.
I see.
But the method they used to collect the information on these confounders, it wasn't a validated questionnaire. I think it was, so it's unclear whether the information they collected
Is real.
is valid.
Yeah, okay.
But they did make an effort to, so that would be a limitation. Also, just to mention that there's different types of IBS. So there's IBS-C, which is, anyone?
Christmas.
No.
Colon. Chronic.
No. Come on, guys. Think about poo.
Crap.
No.
Oh.
Constipation.
Oh.
Okay? So that means IBS with the dominant stool form being constipated, so you don't go that much. There's IBS-D.
Diarrhea.
Yes! 2 stars. So IBS,
I got 2.
to make up for the last terrible round. So IBS-D, which is dominating diarrhea. So yeah, that's what would be your most common stool form. And then there's IBS-M.
Massive.
Not exactly. Mixed.
Oh.
So that's like you get a mixture of diarrhea and constipation.
Oh, that's gonna be horrific.
Silent
Yeah.
Denalza got it right, by the way. She
Yeah.
messaged me the right answer.
So this study excluded people that had IBS-C predominant because I think the pathology of IBS-C is slightly different and might not be considered to be affected by the intervention that they're trying to use here.
So the microbiota aren't relevant to IBS-C.
They might be relevant, but in a different way.
Okay, so not in the way that they're trying to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So their population point I'm trying to make here was like, they made efforts to define. So it's like good clinical practice to have a really well-defined population, basically.
Yes.
So that's...
That everything is very, very well defined, or has to be very well defined.
It has to be.
Or as defined as possible.
Which kind of follows on from how you were saying we were very specific.
Yes.
Everything has
that
to
title
be
is very specific.
very, very specific.
Yes.
So they followed them up for a year. They got them to fill out these questionnaires on their IBS symptoms, their quality of life, and also their confounders, so things like anxiety and depression, etc. For every 3 months. So they took them at baseline, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months.
Okay.
And the primary endpoint was an improvement in their IBS SSS, so that's the questionnaire for the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
An improvement in the score on that questionnaire at 3 months by 75 points. So a 75 points
What's the
improvement.
scale, sorry?
The scale goes up to 300, so from like 0 to 300.
Oh, so that's quite a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because that's what, a quarter? Yeah, 25%.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing to mention about IBS and its treatment, it's quite, so as I said, there's 3 different types. The clinical symptoms of IBS are like really, really broad and differ a great deal between people. So it's quite hard to treat. So there's like some pharmacological interventions that have limited success. There's also some dietary interventions such as the low FODMAP diet, which does show some considerable success.
The what, sorry?
Low FODMAP.
Low FODMAP.
Yeah.
And what is FODMAP?
Basically, a diet low in certain types of fibre.
Okay.
That's recommended for the treatment of IBS. If I was to go into it, we'd literally be here all night.
Alright, okay. I think
That's why, for your own sake. So that's method of treatment, but it's quite difficult to get people to follow sometimes. Some people are good at following it and others aren't because it's quite complex.
Okay.
So then FMT was the third shining beacon that might help. So yeah, this was the first randomized controlled trial that was ever done in patients with IBS, giving them fecal microbiota transplantation. So, that's quite good and exciting. So they found that at 3 months, which was the primary endpoint, 65% of patients who received FMT had an improvement in their IBS SSS scores of 75 points.
Cool.
So that was quite good. 65% of them who got FMT
That is very
improved. But, and here comes the strange part, 43% of people who received the placebo, so that is they received their own unhealthy poo, also improved.
By how much?
By the 75 points.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So 65% of FMT participants improved and 43% of placebo improved.
So that means about 50% of people who got poo shoved up their ass improved their IBS.
Yeah, so the kind of big thing to note here is that people who got the placebo improved. So the placebo is supposed to be the blank. So it's the thing that you're comparing to. It's like giving people a drug versus giving them like a Tic Tac.
This is so basically it's kind of like saying IBS is quite largely psychological.
Yes, and that is largely psychological, so we'd refer to that as there's a really big placebo effect.
So how do you know that putting poo up someone's bum in any sort of way doesn't help you out?
Even if it's their own unhealthy poo.
Yes.
Because if you're giving them their own unhealthy poo...
It's the same.
It's the same. They should have no change. So the fact that they improved their scores indicates that there's something else going on here. So like Curry just mentioned, it's a psychological effect or a placebo effect. So that's when people, because they think that they're getting... So that's why a placebo is usually designed so that participants will think, or they won't know if they're getting the treatment or not. These participants in the placebo group were thinking, oh, maybe I'm in the treatment group, and then their scores improved. Yeah, and this is a really common occurrence in IBS, and it's something that's really well documented and quite, it's considered. And this paper, the researchers in this paper did consider that there would be a placebo effect, and when they did their sample size calculation, so this is a calculation that they do in order to calculate how many participants they need to recruit and have in each group in order for their results to be valid. They tried to control for the fact that there would be a placebo effect, but they estimated that this placebo effect would be 10%.
Oh, damn.
And what they got was 43%.
Okay.
So this is quite a limitation. Now they do acknowledge this, and they acknowledge that even after they did the sample size calculation, they thought to themselves, oh, this placebo effect might be a bit less. Nevertheless, though, this research is still interesting, and they do say, it's a good basis to start off with, and definitely will lead to further research, larger studies, and like multi-center. So this was just done in one small center in Norway. So this sometimes, when this type of study can kind of limit the generalizability. Yeah. So, the people in this town could all have something similar in their diet that also could have been
I feel like in Norway as well, it's quite a small town. Therefore they'll talk to you and be like, oh, my poo's improving, how is yours?
Exactly, yeah. They could have been, that could have been happening, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. That's all psychological thing again, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly the placebo effect.
Same sort of way.
Yeah. So that's just kind of that. Do you have any other questions? Is there anything else
I have a question.
Oh, I had a question I can't remember.
In your opinion, then, is this study a failure? As in, is this a viable avenue that they should continue to go down, even though, technically speaking, there's not much difference between the placebo group and the intervention group?
True, yeah. I think their limitation that they addressed about the single centre and the underestimation of the placebo effect, they're definitely two very valid things. Also, in terms of context and the background research, what they were going on was that they found strong evidence in the literature for dysbiosis in IBS. So that's an altered gut microbiota in IBS. They also found strong evidence for a restoration of the microbiota with fecal microbiota transplantation. So this means that FMT can correct dysbiosis. So these two things taken together, it's kind of a good grounds. Also, there has been other RCT randomized control trials. They've used probiotics and antibiotics to manipulate the microbiota in IBS, and these have had some improvements. Also then, as I said earlier on, it mimics kind of the situation in the large intestine, mimics the situation in C. difficile infection, and fecal microbiota transplantation is quite efficacious, is quite good for treatment of... Why can't I not use that word?
So I guess a paper like this is quite good because it has given a real placebo effect number that they should base future
exactly, and it's basically just saying at the end that we were underpowered.
Yeah.
So the study, I think, isn't completely invalid, but definitely approach with caution because they didn't probably have a large enough sample size to detect any robust effects.
Does it say how many people were in the sample?
So they recruited 90 people in total.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's actually 8 more trials.
8 more trials?
8 more, of FMT in IBS. So obviously, not just myself, but other people thought that this was a good basis to go on.
Is there any other things? Oh yeah, what was it called? V difficile?
C difficile. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think I fucked everyone up with my joke, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, is there anything else? So C. difficile and IBS can be treated by fecal microbiota transplantation.
Yeah. Microbiota.
Microbiota. I said then.
Or FMT.
I'll just say FMT for now on.
Yes.
So, can anything else be solved via FMT?
As far as I'm aware, most of the research has been done in C. difficile, and now IBS is kind of the next up and coming area that they're looking at. But in theory, if this does work for IBS, like other gastrointestinal disorders where there's quite a large shift in the microbiota, could also have potential to be improved by FMT.
That's a cool paper though.
So there you go.
It's
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I think it's anything that's up my street about science.
It's Poo Ships.
It's just poo, it's just funny.
Yeah.
So I always say that like every conversation will just evolve into about poo or sex.
And it's not only funny, it's also useful, as this paper has.
Yeah, so next time we start talking about like funny poo stories, I'll be like, by the way guys, did you know that poo is so successful in helping people solve their health issues as well as being hilarious in conversation?
pretty
And
much.
that is the purpose of this podcast, is so that you'll spread the news.
Yeah, pretty much. Hi guys, it's Kiri here, just popping on randomly like this because unfortunately we had a technical glitch and there won't be a second paper on this episode. We are quite bummed out about this and we're so sorry to you guys listening and to Jamie. We will be covering the paper in the next episode though, so please come back. It's a really, really cool one and I'm really excited to share it with you. We're still learning and unfortunately we just messed up this time. Please forgive us. But in the meantime, we really hope you enjoyed this episode anyway and that you'll come back. So I'm just going to do a little outro like this instead. And so, as always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Layout Podcast. You can email us how disappointed you are on layoutpodcast@gmail.com, or you can visit our blog, which is written by Silent Demelza at layoutpodcast@wordpress.com. We love you guys, and we're so grateful that you're here listening, and thank you so much. Bye! Hello everyone! Oh no, I didn't like that.
Hi, can it be called giraffe bread because it looks like giraffes?
Are you telling me this so I say it?
Sorry.
Jamalza was like...
Jamalza's WhatsApping us.
Jamalza was like, my
info.
A-levels further maths course like, was modelling a plane landing. Prove some planes. Anyway.